Well, glory be and mercy me, we've done it yet again. In this unfolding apocalypse, there are so many things to talk about, and today I think I'm going to cut a little close to the bone in terms of my personal experience. So, as many of you may know, many of my followers may know, I'm recently single right at the beginning of the pandemic, no less, and have been going it alone through this period, as one does, with the apocalypse looming all around us. And of course, as one does as a single male, I have been pursuing any opportunity that I can in order to find somebody to, spend a moment, have a brief reprieve, maybe even find a little bit of happiness or joy amidst this total shit show that we're all experiencing together. And here's an experience that continuously keeps happening to me. That the only way to connect to people these days seems to be through digital means. Places like Tinder, Reddit, attempting to find some kind of connection, attempting to find something going on. And it continuously keeps happening that I strike up a conversation with someone, they'll talk back with me, things to be going well, and then eventually she'll put a price on the table. It's depressing to live in a society where we've been commodified so thoroughly, where even concepts like love, even things like sex, have become completely commodified. And it's hard to blame the young women who are caught in this trap as well, because we all have bills to pay. We all have bills to pay. And it creates a deep sadness inside of me, a deep sadness that is impossible to avoid these days. That a sadness for myself, certainly, that this pursuit of finding a relationship, of finding even someone to go out on a date with, has become this increasingly obfuscated and difficult pursuit. Where does one even go in the midst of this apocalypse to meet people? Everything's closed down. You can't really go anywhere. You can't even approach people in public for fear of being admonished. All of these things kind of pile up and make you think to yourself, I think I'll probably just be alone then. And that's not so bad, if not ideal. And that sadness for myself is one thing, but the deep sadness that I have is for the young women who are caught in it, but also for the society itself. What kind of a society is this that turns against even the concept of love? The concept of love itself. That instead of people entering these conversations honestly, instead of people entering these conversations with the hope that a genuine connection might be made, everything frays down into commodification. That we are simply trade negotiations, that we are negotiating with one another to exchange money. And that has boiled down to our most intrinsic aspects. And before someone jumps up and says, well, John, something like prostitution, it's always been around, hasn't it? It's the oldest profession after all. Well, the statistics don't lie. The facts don't lie. The millennial generation and the Gen Z generation are having less sex than previous generations. We are divorcing at higher rates. We are having breakups at higher rates. We are separating at higher rates. Our relationships are becoming commodified. Everything around us is becoming commodified. It won't be too much longer until the air we breathe, the very air we breathe, will be metered somehow. And they're doing it to love, and they're doing it to the heart. And there just comes a point where I have to say, I don't care to live in this world that you're creating. I don't care to participate in this world that you're creating. This world that says everything must have a price tag associated with it. That everything has to be put through the lens of financial or monetary value. This worship of money has distorted our society in vicious and cruel and brutal ways. And I don't think I care for it very much. It puts on a false veneer. It creates a situation where if someone is being nice to you, you have to immediately become suspicious of them. I don't care for that at all. I don't care for that at all. And it's spreading, and it's going to get worse. How does one trust anyone in these circumstances? How can we trust each other? We certainly don't, as a people. We happily abandon each other to the streets. We happily abandon our young men and women and put them in circumstances where they're forced to sell themselves in such a manner. And it's the dishonesty that gets me the most. And then, to really twist the knife, because this is the type of people we are, we put these young men and women in these situations, and then we criminalize the activity. That we say, oh, we'll create a society where people become so desperate that they have to sell themselves for sexual purposes. But if they do that, then they'll be heavily fined or they'll face prison time. We'll put all kinds of impediments in their way. And that's where things get really dark and sinister, because it becomes obvious that the capitalist death cult really does want to inflict and maximize suffering. They really do want to ensure that people can't find a moment, even a moment of connection. And they're trying as hard as they can to put every barrier possible between you and a real, genuine connection with someone else. And then, everyone acts confused. Everyone acts a little oddly. Well, why aren't my kids having kids? I want some grandchildren. Why aren't my kids having any kids? Why are birth rates declining? Why is it that this generation of people aren't having any kids? Meanwhile, we're paying upwards of 70 to 80% of our earnings on rent. Meanwhile, the whole society is in free fall collapse. Even the doctors and the lawyers and the engineers, the people who made the right decisions, they're not able to buy homes. Everyone's exhausted, and our sexual experiences are becoming more and more commodified, so that if you start to fall behind in the capitalist death cult, you can't even pay to have sex. And then we wonder where the incels come from. We have erected an anti-sex society. We have erected a society that despises the concept of love. We have erected a society that despises the concept of friendship, of togetherness. We have erected a society that sees those concepts as an impediment to its goal, which is the worship of money, the mass extraction of wealth, and more and more every day I see the ultimate destruction of the species. And if your goal, which these vampiric ghouls must have, if the goal is to destroy a species, well then you don't want them reproducing. What's a good way to ensure they don't? Exhaust them. Exhaust them completely. And so, this commentator's pursuit of love continues on. I wish you all good luck in this pursuit. The deck has been stacked against us in ways that it has never been stacked before. That we are being plunged into a society that wants us to fail in this regard. Is it any wonder why people are turning away from capitalism? As we should. We should revolt. We should rebel. We should repent. Well, this is the end of this video. If you guys have made it to this point, I have a live stream 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Come on in. Have a cry with me. Talk with me about it. We've got more and more people coming in every day. We are building a revolutionary movement. We are organizing a revolutionary movement. Always remember, you are a quantum being standing around in quantum energy. These billionaires are spending hundreds of billions of dollars in the hopes that you won't realize it. Because if you do, then you'll understand that you're their equals, and they can't enslave somebody who sees themselves as their equals. Good luck. We're gonna need it.